Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first of hopefully many off-season interviews that I'm going to be doing here. And we're starting off with a very good one. We've got world bronze medalist from Samoa, Alex Rose here, 66-96 to take third in the men's discus in Tokyo almost 2 weeks ago now. And Alex, we were talking a little bit before we started recording. You've been back home for about a week now. How's the kind of, I guess, decompression from one of the most insane experiences of your life, I have to assume, Ben?
Yeah, absolutely. It was. It was the most insane moment of my career. And coming back and being in the swing of things with work and being a dad, it's nuts. It feels like a dream. Like my whole trip to Tokyo was just um I mean, it was incredible. So coming back and it's interesting. I keep getting reminded of what happened, and it feels like it didn't happen to me. It feels like I was like watching a movie or something. Like when you introduced me as a bronze medalist, it's like, oh crap, that's crazy. I forgot. I did do that.
Yeah, was there, I guess we were talking, you said you got back on Thursday. So you had a couple days, I guess, in Tokyo after the competition wrapped up. Was there a moment in there when it did like start to sink in a little bit and be like, okay, what happened Sunday night, like that wasn't just a dream. Like I actually am the third best in the world this year.
I think every now and then I would see the medal, like because it was in the metal box and everything. And there's a funny story with the metal box. On the bus ride home, I was so kind of in my head and just like what's going on that I left my metal box on the bus. And I had to DM World Athletics and get a hold of Yvonne at Oceana Athletics, and they made some phone calls and tracked down the bus that had the metal case on it. I got the case, and then I think once I met someone and I got the case and I put the metal inside of it, then it hit me because like there's a little poem on there that talks about the achievement that you did, and it just was like a big moment for me putting it in its case and kind of closing it and being like, wow, that happened.
Yeah, it's funny hearing that, just knowing like all of the drama that happened surrounding like the bus system to and from like the warm-up track and the main
Yeah.
stadium that whole week. And then, with you guys ending up closing out the meet, like the last memory of the athlete buses in Tokyo is someone leaving their medal behind on one of them.
Oh, it's very fitting.
Yeah. I guess let's get into that competition a little bit, and we'll start the morning before on Saturday in qualifying. 65-13, which is one of your best marks at in a global championship round. Second round looked pretty, even though 65 ended up 10th in qualifying, which is just a
Yeah.
testament to this year in discus. But how'd you feel coming out of that first round?
I mean, really, I felt pretty good. I remember throw one was like 63, 60 or something like that. And then the second throw, I still wasn't going very fast and it was still a 65 something. I knew I was in really good form. So on the third one, I was like, let's just get the auto. I know I'm capable of hitting the auto of 6650, I think it was.
I think so.
And went a little bit too hard, bailed out of the back. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, if 65-10 doesn't make it, then that would be insane. And then I'm on the bus home or the bus back to the hotel and I'm watching the results. I'm like, okay, I'm in sixth place now, then seventh, then eighth, then ninth. I'm like, what is happening? This is like the first round. I'm in ninth place. But I wound up making it. Luckily, I think it was 64-99 that
99 was 12th, yeah.
crazy.
So I guess, making finals is something you've done now for global championships in a row. So how do you kind of spend that 36 or so hours between the qualifying on Saturday morning and then the final Sunday night?
Yeah, so there's a lot that goes into your prep between the qualification and final, especially when it's the completely opposite time of day. I know obviously shot put had to deal with that in a maybe a worse way because
Yeah.
it was the same exact day.
Oof.
Um, but I had a bunch of caffeine like in the afternoon to try to stay up as late as I could to adjust my clock to feel good in the evening the next day. I went to a Brazilian steakhouse with my sister actually. So I had like a ton of meat, like 5 pounds of meat. I don't know if you've ever been to one of those before, but they're pretty awesome. They have like a green or red card, and if it's green, they just keep piling steak on your plate.
That sounds like the dream.
Yeah.
Um, and then you get to the final, and it was, I think I remember it was like exactly 7 minutes before the competition was scheduled to start. The rain starts coming down. And, we talked a little bit in the mix zone about how that's not something that like frazzles you because you're used to throwing in adverse conditions. But I guess what was kind of the attitude of the other 11? Obviously, we saw Daniel was just having the time of his life out there. But like
Yeah.
in, I guess, around the circle, when that rain starts coming down, like, do you feel it somehow get even more tense than a world final already was? And like, how do you kind of stay calm if that was the case?
Yeah, absolutely. It was you could just feel the fear and anxiety of everyone, and like everyone's trying to frantically figure out like, okay, how do I what's my best solution here? Do I switch shoes? Do I have a more grippy pair of shoes? Do I put the sock over the shoe? Different things like that. Um, and personally, for me, I was like, okay, well, this might be an opportunity for me, right? Like, because I am used to throwing in a I have a ring that's kind of similar to that Tokyo ring nearby that I've thrown in, not recently, but I did over the years, and it kind of forced me to be incredibly balanced out of the back and not let my weight shift over one way or the other. Um, so yeah, it was tense, man. It was different than a normal world final for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, you mentioned staying balanced. I know because of the nature of your coaching setup, we get a really good look into the cues and conversations you and Dane were having before the final. And like that was the biggest thing for him was just staying balanced over your left. So like how much were you really focusing in on that, especially when that rain started to come down and you knew it's the last day of the championships. They can't really postpone the competition. It's
Right.
like you're gonna have to deal with this one way or another.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, coincidentally, that was just kind of the cue I'd had this whole last like 3 months was okay, if you can stay balanced over your left leg, then I'll drive more balanced in the middle and my high point will be better and then I'll be able to, finish more efficiently at the front. And that, I mean, those cues just helped in every way for adverse conditions.
Yeah, and so now the competition does get postponed after two throws, and it's like 2 hours, or you guys come out, test out the ring after like an hour, still not working. Like, how are you kind of staying loose, I guess, both physically and mentally in that long delay where you guys are kind of just sequestered away under the stadium?
Yeah, it was difficult, and that was one of the things that was kind of stressful for me, because I had a pretty bad knee injury a year ago, and I had to get surgery for it. So like keeping my quads and hamstrings and adductor warm and warmed up. I have a band exercise I do every time before I throw was super important to me because I didn't want to like tighten up and have any knee pain or anything like that. So I just kind of kept rolling out and doing those band warm-ups every like 40 minutes maybe and hoping that it lined up right with when they told us to go back up to the stadium.
And then once the competition does get underway, funnily enough, after like the closing ceremony had already happened, um, you see guys start to slip. Like you saw Denny slip, and that's why, they delayed the competition in the first place. Um, and you just heard a lot of people talk about like it is literally a danger for you guys to throw in there. I know like you're comfortable and you've been in those kind of conditions before, but like when you see guys before you have really scary falls, like how do you kind of separate, like compartmentalize that and be like, all right, I know there's a chance something bad could happen, but also this is my job and this is the biggest meet of the year and I still need to muster something up to throw far.
Yeah, it is tough watching people go in and slip and fall. And man, Gugis and Denny, they
Yeah.
had pretty tough ones. And Vice Heidinger.
Hmm.
And it hurts when you fall on concrete and you're a huge guy. Like there's a lot of risk that could happen. You could easily break a wrist or, hurt your elbow, like different things like that. So I think just having I've fallen in practice like that a lot, and I've still continued throwing afterwards. So my mindset was like, just don't think about it. Just throw like normal. Don't think about slipping, and hopefully you don't.
And then, so your series starts off not super pretty, 57-9 in round one, but then you go 64-6 in round two. And like, that's a mark that the way the competition had been looking to that point, it looked like that might have been good enough to medal. Um, like, how significant was it in the first couple rounds when everyone was still kind of finding their footing, so to speak, in the ring to put a mark like that out there and really kind of cement yourself in contention?
Yeah, that was super, super important because the my first throw was a 57. I slipped. I didn't fall, but I slipped and just didn't have a proper finish. So I didn't really make a correction after that. I was like, okay, well, just try to do the same thing and stay balanced over your left. I'm not going to change my shoes. I'm not going to do anything. And luckily, I didn't slip on the second one, and I managed to. I remember it landed in it. I thought it was like right below the tape of 65, and I was like, okay. I've at least got three more, or probably two more after this, after the first three rounds. So then it kind of, once you know that that's probably going to happen, it definitely is a weight off your shoulders and you're able to throw a little bit more loose, I would say.
Mhm. Yeah, and then three and four were fouls, and then you step into the ring for that fifth round throw. And I know you had talked in the mix zone that you were just approaching every throw the same way, and you were like, one of these I'm not gonna slip. You don't slip on this one. This ends up getting you that bronze medal. Like stepping into the ring, what was going through your head on that throw?
I remember, um, I remember I was confused at first before I even walked in the ring because I knew Gugius was up and I
Yeah.
didn't realize he had passed.
I
So
did notice that. I was like watching it back and I'm like, there is kind of a thing where you're like, wait, I'm up now?
Yeah, yeah. I was confused. So it was an odd start. So there's that initial jolt of, oh, what's my time? Okay, whatever. So then I didn't have a towel holding my disc. I put my disc like under my shirt or something, which is soaking wet. Um, and then I just did the same exact thing where I would, I do think I went a little bit harder because I started thinking, well, I've already slipped on three of these throws. I think if I push a little bit harder, um, I'm either going to slip or not slip, so I might as well have enough momentum to throw hard at the finish regardless. And on that one, I really did. It was a big catch, and I squared up on the finish, and then I just sort of blacked out, and I remember beating my chest walking out of the ring.
Do you have, is there anything in the middle of that throw where you can have like the instant of recognition that like I didn't slip on this one? Like, is there like a little like, excitement you can feel mid throw where it's like this one's gonna be the one we were waiting for?
Oh, absolutely. It was like as soon as I released it and reversed, I reversed and then I planted and I was like that felt like a normal throw. That felt like a dry ring throw, and I think I tagged it. But it's hard to say until I'm watching it fly. I'm like, okay, that's going. That looks higher than normal, still low compared to how a professional discus thrower should be throwing it, but that's higher than my normal throw, which means it's going to go pretty far.
And I mean, 66-96, like you had said, is the best throw you've ever produced in a stadium. Best throw ever at a global championship. In the later rounds in these conditions, like obviously the medal is something to be incredibly proud of, but I think like the way you did it, how much pride does that bring you just like looking back on that throw now?
Man, so much. And that's such an interesting question because for years I've envied and looked at people like Denny and Stahl for having those like legendary throws in round five and six where they're like, you know what, I'm in fifth place or sixth place, but I need to throw far now and I'm gonna produce that. And I've been watching them over the years, like how do I get to that point where I can be that person? How do I have such confidence in my technique that I can, throw like that and under pressure? And that was a huge line of thinking for me this whole year. I had conversations with Dane about it. Like I think I can be that guy and be able to seize my opportunity when it comes. And for it to happen, like you said, and yeah, I'm just incredibly proud.
And then we moved to round six. Like you said, Gudzius had retired. And then Mario comes up short. Denny comes up short. You're stepping into that ring for your sixth throw, knowing you have a medal. Like, for those of us who will never get to experience a moment like that in our lives, how much fun is that? Knowing, there is obviously you can improve your mark a little bit, but
Yep.
also
Yep.
like you're stepping into the ring in a major championship with just, I assume, a lot of pressure off your shoulders because like you did it.
For sure. It's so funny because at that point there were only 80 centimeters between third and first, I think. So, I probably should have been a little bit more focused, but I wasn't at all. I
I don't
couldn't
think anyone will blame you for
I
that.
yeah, I was a lost cause, and I was trying to stay cool or whatever. I think I blew out of the ring at the front, which I never do, and it was just as soon as I walked out, I just smiled and raised my hands up, and it was an incredible moment. It didn't feel real.
And then you walk by Daniel and like you guys just hug and then he goes in and produces like what? Okay. This is, a little off topic for the purposes of our interview, but standing there and seeing a throw like that and like knowing all the circumstances around it, like as a professional discus thrower, how impressive is 70-47 in round 6 in those conditions?
Dude, I think I mean, I'll put it this way. The two best discus throws I've ever seen were both produced by Stahl.
Yeah.
Both were in round six at World Championships. And this one was in the rain at 70-50, which is further than what won the Paris Olympics. And in the Paris Olympics, we had a dry ring with favorable wind, I thought. I was in that final. I thought we had good wind. So, like, words cannot describe how great of a throw that was. He is, and the way he did it, he was hugging me and celebrating with me. He's like, "I'm so proud of you, Rose. I'm so proud of you." Walks up to the front of the ring, bows with his discus. It's like he's celebrating before he even throws, and like it just gives me goosebumps thinking about it. It was incredible, man.
Yeah. I mean, even I will say it's kind of funny because I didn't fully appreciate that throw because I was trying to like make a tweet like Alex Rose is a world bronze medalist. And then
Oh
I
man,
like basically only saw the release. And then I look up and I'm like, what just happened?
it's crazy.
It
Like,
was
yeah.
I need taught me my lesson that I need to be more patient with my tweets. They could wait until the competition's over.
I didn't even know how far it was. I knew he probably won with that throw, but then I
Yeah.
immediately turned around and was just like holding my medal and trying to find my sister in the crowd. And I only found out later that it was 70-50 or whatever it was. Like, wow.
Yeah, and then I mean, you mentioned being with your sister in the crowd, after the competition's over and you get to go see Dane. I don't know how many of your teammates were still there, but you get to see Dane, you get to see your sister. Like, what was the celebration and just the pure joy in that moment? Like, knowing this is global championship number 10 for you
Yeah,
and you
wow.
get
That's
a bronze
crazy.
medal.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of shock and a lot of tears, a lot of emotions. It was just yeah, what a long road. I mean, since my first championship in 2013, where I threw after Alekna Senior, Virgilius Alekna,
Oh man.
it's like, yeah, I couldn't draw it up any better, man. It was unreal, and Dane was just so happy. We were just hugging each other and we kept bringing up things about the past like for the next few hours. We were like, "Remember when we were throwing in 2016 and we were throwing in the uphill in that one farm concrete pad that I had and we'd throw into the goats." So we just kept saying like, "Remember the goats?" for the rest of the night.
This is Garage Strength's first global medal, right?
Yes, yes it is. Yep.
I mean, knowing, like you said, I mean, you've been with Dane for a long time. Like the team, I know you're kind of remote from the rest of the team,
Yep.
but like the team spirit there among the Garage Strength and Throws You crew, like how special is it to be able to represent that on the global stage? And, it's a medal for Samoa, it's a medal for you and your family, but it's also a medal for your other family in a way.
Oh, it's so important, man. It's so, so important because from the beginning, I feel like, it was 2015 in the fall when I started working with Dane, literally 10 years ago. And my PB was 61 at the point. I was a couple years post collegiate at that point, and um, he believed in me then. And even back then, he was writing these programs, program one, Alex Rose, Rio Olympics, 65 meters, because that was the standard at the time. And like we did that the year after that. Like it was 65 used to be a big throw, Now it's just like whatever.
That was
If
barely
you're,
making the final.
yeah, now it's barely making the final. Yeah. Um, yeah, it's just been such a long journey, and that garage strength mentality has stuck through the whole time. And we're constantly have been improving, and to be sort of like one of Dane's first athletes that, we have made hundreds of programs where we'll have a goal, we'll execute it, we'll evaluate it, and then we'll make another goal, we'll execute, we'll evaluate how we did. And we just did that process over years and years. So to finally check that box of medal, which he's been writing on my program for 3 years now, I think, is pretty awesome.
Yeah, and I mean, you mentioned the journey, and just like you said, your first global championship was in 2013. You've made everyone since then, but your first final wasn't until 2022. In those years where, you're making it to these stages, but not quite producing the results you would hope for, like, how do you keep finding that motivation in those moments to finally build to the last four global finals in a row, and now obviously this medal?
I think self-belief is just so incredibly important. There were moments where I would struggle to perform at big meets or really just be consistent with technique or perform in any meets, kind of. But there was always a reason why that was happening, and you have to have patience and be calm enough to identify what those reasons are, right? And for me, I started working full time in 2018 and I had a terrible year. I don't even think I threw 60 meters. We adjusted our training. In 2019, it was a little better. I had a PR at 66, but couldn't execute in Doha. We adjusted training again and again, and we tried to figure out what was going on, and we did. We kind of figured out the formula, and for the last 4 years, it's been kind of pretty much consistent growth, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, how much of a relief then was Eugene making the final? I think you also threw like 65 in qualifying there or something like that. And then finishing eighth in the world after so many years. Like, what was just kind of the, like I said, like the sigh of relief, I guess, at those world championships?
Oh, it was huge. I think that happening allowed me to be more myself and be more loose and relaxed in competitions because in a way I felt like I proved myself a little bit more. Um, and part of what like motivated me and was such a big guide for making that final was watching my teammate Sam Mattis perform well at these big meets year after year. And I think it was 2019, he made his first final in Doha. I was there. I was in his qualifying group and I was able to see how he handled himself and how he dealt with pressure. Um, and then again in the Olympics in 2021, I saw him do the same thing and it was incredibly motivating for me. And he's just a fierce competitor and it's been a privilege to throw with him.
Yeah, I mean, on the topic of that garage strength team, I think in Tokyo it was you, Sam, Gabby Jacobs, and Eric Favors. Like when you're at these global championships, obviously, you guys like represent different countries, so it's not like you're together all the time. But how
Yep.
special is it to still have a team environment? And it's like you aren't just going out here and training alone necessarily. Like you can still have people to support you, people to cheer you on, and people to throw with.
It's super super important. Samoa, we don't have a big team. It's just me. There's no coaches or there was one member of administration that was there, but I have to do a lot of things on my own. Dane had to get my bibs the day before the competition because we didn't know how to get them, and like we're just kind of used to figuring out crazy stuff like that is kind of taken care of for most countries, I would say. So just to have, the GS squad able to go explore Tokyo a little bit, get some ramen and it just sort of centers you because this is garage strength. No matter who's there from garage strength or where you're at, it makes it feel a little bit more like you're at home, I guess.
Who does Dane get credentialed with? Because I know, like during the qualifying round, he was like wearing, I think the Samoa jacket and then the USA hat. Like,
Yeah. It depends year by year, sort of what happens. But this year, he got accredited for USA.
okay.
But for example, I think yeah, at the Olympics last year, he was Team Samoa. You only get accredited for one country, so it kind of just
Hmm.
depends on who he signs up for and who's willing to kind of help him out a little bit.
Yeah, I gotcha. Um, the journey, I mean, this year, just in the last 12 to 13 months, has been, I know it's been a lot with the knee surgery right after Paris. And then on your Instagram, I went back and saw you took 7 months off of training, you said, just recovering from that, welcoming your second son in May. Um, like knowing you were coming into this season the way you were, like, was a result like this even something in your mind at the beginning of this year? Or like, how did you guys kind of approach goal setting, knowing it was far from an ideal build into the season?
It was absolutely not the goal to be able to come and medal in Tokyo. It was like hey, you're recovering from surgery, you're just starting to be able to squat. We don't know how long it's going to take before you can feel strong again. So let's have the goal be try to qualify for Tokyo. That was the goal. Like try to get enough points at 5 meets to be ranked in the top 32 or 36, whatever it is. Um, so that was the initial goal because I started, like you said, very, very late in the season.
How, like, I know you mentioned the like warm-ups and stuff you do to still kind of like manage your knee. Like, does that affect you in like what you're able to do in training at all, or is it kind of just something you can still do everything you're used to doing? It just takes a little more care and some
Yeah,
TLC.
it definitely affects training. So when I was younger, I did a ton of plyometrics. I loved to jump. I would jump around, do box jumps and overhead back throws and underhand forward with the shots and stuff like that. But I'm definitely a lot more careful how much pressure I put on my knee because I want it to feel good when I'm throwing in practice. So whatever I kind of have to take out from my programming before that or in between throwing sessions, I do.
And so this year, like you said, the goal was kind of to qualify through points at just a couple meets. So you didn't have a ton of competitions on the schedule, but one of them in LA goes really well, 67 plus to beat basically the US championship field.
Yeah.
Um, like how much of a confidence boost was that meet for you where, you just, even with everything that's gone on, everything you've had to deal with, like it's still in there and this year can still be something worthwhile.
It was a really awesome moment to hit that standard because um it was tough to get to the 5 meets and knowing that I hit that standard I knew okay I don't have to do anything I can just wait until Worlds not compete for like 3 months be a dad and train by myself and then I get to go to Worlds and see what can happen so just to hit that mark was like a breath of fresh air and I remember one big change I made personally was I invested in a home gym at my house so that, if I have to wake up super early for the baby or anything, um, and I have a 30-minute gap, right? I can get in the gym and in the garage and try to knock out something that would usually take a couple hours with travel. I could just do it in 40 minutes really quick. And that was a huge, huge help to be prepared.
Yeah, and I know you said that you could just take some time off, but you didn't necessarily because you pulled the move that a lot of guys did where you fly overnight from LA to Tennessee to compete at Ed Murphy. Like, what
Crazy.
was I that was probably more brutal, I guess, than the qualifying one morning and then the final the next day. Like, you had guys like I think Joe and Reggie also did
Yep.
that.
Yep.
Um, but like, what was that turnaround like for you?
It was tough. I mean, my thought process when I set the whole trip up was, okay, if I can throw like 62 at both of these meets, I'll probably have enough points to be in the top 32. So after I hit the 67.50 at the first meet, I was like, well, do I just go home because this is gonna suck. This is gonna be really tough. But I decided, okay, I'm already signed up. I don't want to like bail on a meet director or anything. Um, I went to the meet and it was brutal. I think I threw like 60 meters. It wasn't good.
Yeah. And then, so I guess did the specific build into these world championships look like for you? Like, how did you feel training wise entering in?
Training was absolutely incredible. Um, it was just probably from August, at the beginning of August until the meet, so probably 8 weeks, was just a constant increase in technical gains, strength gains. The distance was going really, really well. I was throwing with the Grand Valley State University throwers a lot when I'd be out there, so it was nice having someone else around. I can get a little bit closer to meet intensity than when I'm absolutely by myself. So I'd had these huge practice PRs leading up to it, and I knew, no one knows I'm in great form, and I haven't really competed in forever. So like, this is going to be funny if I make the final when I'm ranked like 38th in the world right now.
Well, you did a little bit more than make the final. Um, you talked a little bit in the mix zone and like you're pretty open on Instagram about just how kind of unnatural your training setup is, I guess, with the strains of your full-time job. Um, which unfortunately is something a lot of throwers kind of have to deal with. But what
Yep.
does, I guess, take us through like a week in the life of Alex Rose with part-time world bronze medalist discus thrower, full-time technical sales engineer is the title.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. So, yeah, it is, I would say, a little bit different than most of my competitors. So, for example, last night, we'll start in the evening because that's bedtime for the kids, which stuff gets a little wild. So we're putting the toddler down, and he's for the next few hours kind of jumping out of bed and running out in the living room and whatever. We're feeding the baby one last time, putting him to bed, and then you just sleep and hope that you get 3 hours before someone wakes you up. You usually don't, but you just pray that you do. And then, by the time 5:30 a.m. rolls around, maybe you got, 4 or 5 hours of sleep. Um, Time to get ready for the day, take the kids to daycare. Then by 8 a.m. I'm clocked in at the computer. Um, Typically I look over my calls for the day, and then I either have to drive like 2.5 hours to Detroit area or about 3 hours south to Indianapolis and north throughout Indiana. I'm meeting with customers all day. Then typically around noon or sometimes 1 o'clock, whenever my last call of the morning ends, I'll try to either throw or lift. So I use Google Maps. I find a ring that's closest to where I end my day. I've probably thrown at 100 different rings from random high schools. I try to pick out high schools where I'm not like right by the building in case class is in session. So I've gotten kicked out of places before. Or if I use a weight room, I do day passes, which can add up. It's
Hmm.
pretty expensive, but I used to have four different gym memberships, one in Detroit, Fort Wayne, Indiana, Grand Rapids, and then Indianapolis. So I've gotten used to the chaos and I just do what I can.
What is, I guess, if there's like one particularly memorable day of training for just like how chaotic it was, like what's your most unbelievable story of getting an elite level training session in?
Okay, so this isn't necessarily a training session, but I think this story totally encapsulates how crazy it is what I'm doing. So we had our national sales conference was in Hershey, Pennsylvania, and it's a week full of meetings and different kind of overviews on new products, things like that, sales awards, you name it. I think I flew out on Friday morning. Typically, you fly to go back home. It's a travel day, and then you have the weekend. I flew to Rabat, Africa, to in Morocco to compete in a Diamond League meet because I was throwing so well that season. I was able to get invited to some Diamond Leagues, which is pretty tough to get the number of meets and points you need
Yeah.
in what I'm doing. I threw like 63 maybe or something. I think I placed like sixth, and then immediately flew back um, to Detroit, and I landed the morning of a trade show that I had to work at for the next 3 days. So I landed. I intentionally packed like I had to do laundry and rabat for all my work clothes. So I land and I'm like switching from my competition and sweats into a polo and dress pants and dress shoes. And then I go to this conference and then I'm working the booth for my company and meeting with customers for the next 3 days before I head back home. And then I'm like, man, what just happened? I don't think I can do a trip like that again.
If you haven't gotten some sort of Employee of the Year award, I think that's the award is a farce if you don't have a couple of those to go with your world bronze now.
Yeah, yeah. It's yeah.
What has been, I guess it's been like almost 2 weeks now since the competition wrapped up that you've had that bronze medal kind of in your possession. Like, what's been, I guess, the coolest like moment or reaction to kind of having that kind of hardware?
Man, I think it's hearing from people that I wouldn't have expected to know about it. Like I just yesterday, my neighbors, like I pulled in after getting home from some sales calls and um they were like, Alex, congratulations. And like their parents were outside and their kids were outside and I'm like, oh man, that's awesome. I didn't know you guys heard about it. And they're like, yeah, we were watching. We were watching the whole thing. It was crazy. And they talk about the rain and sort of the drama of the meet. And I'm like, man, how cool that like different people who normally wouldn't be invested in a discus final, are watching this thing and excited and they're really like entertained by it. Like
Hmm.
it's throwing is entertaining and most people I think if they gave it a try to watch and get into, they would like it. So it's yeah, that's been really fun for me seeing the community get involved.
Yeah, I guess if you talked about your sister being there, were your wife and kids staying? Were they still home for? So
Yes.
is your oldest son, is he old enough to like comprehend what happened?
Not really. Like he kind of is. I
Yeah.
just last night I've been trying to show him every day, like, this is my throw. Look, I won a medal. And then he just sees me and I'm like screaming and beating my chest and he just laughs. He's like, Dad, that's silly. What are you doing? I'm like, I don't know how to explain, like, oh, I'm yelling because I'm very
Yeah.
excited. And so it's pretty funny.
What's been, because, this is the first time Samoa has ever been on the medal stand at a world championship. Samoa's only ever won one Olympic medal. So, like, this is a major moment for, like, all of sports in the country. What's been the reaction from Samoa, either like the federation or just the people, and just kind of welcoming this moment?
The people have been fantastic. I am still not caught up with all of my messages I've had on Facebook and Instagram and everything. I try to knock out like 30 a day, but it gets kind of taxing. So I'm still in the process, but I can attest that they have been so supportive and like they're just thankful I've represented Samoa and they understand why I chose to do it and I'm just so grateful for them. They've been nothing but supportive, and it's pretty cool to see that reaction from the community.
We've seen the way that like Botswana has embraced their like 4x4 team and like Julian Alfred last year in
Yep.
St. Lucia after the Olympics. Like, are we gonna have an Alex Rose parade in the streets of Samoa someday?
I mean, that would be awesome. I think maybe some type of celebration will happen when I can get back to Apia. And
Hmm.
I've been talking with Athletics Samoa about making a trip. It's just funny because I told them I just took 2 weeks off for Worlds. I have to wait till I have more time off for work, and then I can make the trip.
Oh man, yeah, that's the things that like it's just it's unfortunate with like the state of the sport that a world bronze medalist thrower has to kind of deal with
Yeah.
those things, but it's it's what we live with, I
Yeah.
guess.
And I think it's a testament to doing the sport because you love it,
Yeah,
right? And
definitely.
you don't sign up to be a discus thrower if you want to have, 1 million followers on Instagram and have all this money and fame. Like you truly must love it if you're doing it, and that's absolutely the case for me.
Has there in, like this was your 12th year since making your first global championship. Like, is there a point where you were like really close to quitting the sport, like one that stands out in particular?
Oh, absolutely. There were two moments in particular. One was when I started working, started being a
Mhm.
sales engineer in 2018. I was humbled very quickly on how tough it would be mentally, physically, time management wise. You're essentially doing two jobs and it's very hard to function. So I almost quit then. And another time was in 2021 after failing to make the final in Tokyo in at the Olympics. So that was a pretty devastating moment for me because it was the first time I felt absolutely prepared and then just for a multitude of reasons or who knows exactly why, but I didn't perform when I thought I could. Um, so I feel like that second time when I almost quit, coming back and having the redemption arc of getting to go back in that ring and back in that circle that traumatized me and made me almost give up and kind of have my greatest moment of my career was like incredible.
Yeah, if there's any way for this metal to be a little bit sweeter, like that's got to be a big part of it.
Absolutely.
So now I guess looking ahead, you've got an off season. I assume a very welcomed off season, especially with a what with like a 4 month old, 5 month old.
Yeah.
Um, but I guess thinking about 2026 now, you've got calm games once again. So unlike a lot of like Sam or Gabby, like you have a specific like big championship on the schedule. Like, have you and Dane started talking about goals for 2026 at all yet? Or like, when do those kind of conversations start happening?
I think in the next few weeks we'll start talking about it. I think we've talked about this. We're trying to soak this moment up and not get too ahead of ourselves
Yeah.
because like we really should celebrate a little bit and just, give ourselves some grace and then come back to it ready to rock and roll, after we've checked that box of taking the mental break.
Yeah. One thing that I think a lot of people kind of forget is that we've seen what Ramona has become in the last couple years, but I think people forget who kind of started the whole craze with you hitting that 70 back in 2023. Just knowing like kind of what Caleb and Don have built and like how significant that's been in your career, like how special is it to see what that's kind of grown into? And I assume, everyone talks about how just much fun those meets are and how easy they are to get on the schedule. So I assume we'll see you back there next year at some point.
100%. I'll be there next year. I'm looking for a big PR. My PR is not currently at Ramona anymore, so
Yeah.
I gotta get it back in Ramona. So I think I've got some meters to give for sure.
Is your PR does come from GVSU. Is like we've seen some big throws, like especially with like Erica Beistel in
Yep.
that facility. Do they have like similar, I guess, pretty good conditions usually in the same way that Ramona does?
They have excellent conditions. So my throw was in a huge wind.
Hmm.
Not like Ramona though. I mean,
Yeah.
it's probably like half as strong as Ramona. Like Ramona's just like when the wind is blowing, it's like, okay, let's focus on standing up in the ring straight first and then throwing normally. It definitely not like that at Grand Valley, but the conditions are very good.
Yeah. I mean, even just like I was like watching the stream from the 2024 World Invitational and like you hear it, but then actually being there this
Yeah,
spring is like there were genuinely times where I could just like lean back into the wind and just be like, "Oh, this is nice.
so
I don't need
accurate.
to spend as much energy standing up right now. I can just have the wind support me."
Yeah, it's nuts. You should almost wear earmuffs because it like it's like deafening after a few hours of being outside.
Yeah, it definitely makes interviewing people really hard because you
Yeah.
can't really hear anything anyone's saying. But
They should set like a telephone booth style like interview room out there for after someone throws a record.
well, I think Dan had the right setup this year because he was doing the broadcast with Joe for Throws You, and so they were like he would bring people in and do interviews like under the big like awning they have. So I think
Right.
I've got to talk to Caleb about getting a better setup this year.
Yeah. I'm sure he'll do it, man. Anyway, if anyone needs anything, he's the guy.
Yeah. All right. Well, Alex, this was it was great getting a chance to talk with you and hear a little bit more about your story. And as someone like I, was in high school from I threw in high school from 2020 to 2022, and I never really had a throws coach. So like Dane essentially was my coach. And so I like very early into my throwing career, like I, got to know you and Sam and everyone like through
Oh,
throws you.
awesome.
And so seeing you get that medal, it was just like a little bit even more special for like high school Paul. So it was great to
Very
see
cool,
that.
man.
And yeah, it's been great to get a chance to talk with you. And you have so much to be proud of this year. And I'm super excited to see what's in store for you in 2026.
Thank you very much, Paul. It's my pleasure. I appreciate it, and very cool that Garage Strength kind of holds a special place in your heart from high school, Paul.
Definitely. All right. Well, Alex, enjoy your off season, and I'm sure we'll talk again sometime.
All right. Sounds good, man. I appreciate it.